Hey everyone, Clayton here at etrailer.Com, and today we'll be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install Demco's tabless base plate kit on our 2020 Jeep Gladiator. Our base plate is going to be one of our major components in our flat towing setup. We're going to have our base plate, our tow bar, our safety chains, our wiring, our supplemental braking system, and our stoplight switch. Our base plate is the key attachment point between our vehicle and our tow bar. Our base plate bolts right up to our frame, that way it's a good strong connection to our tow bar. Our base plate is going to be a steel construction, so it's going to be really strong for a long time. It also has a nice black powder coat finish, so it'll keep that finish looking really nice for a long time as well. And not only is the tow bar going to look nice, but it does look nice on the front of our Jeep. As you can see, it doesn't really stick out like a sore thumb. It kind of blends in with the look of our vehicle and underneath our front bumper. It's going to be really simple when we're hooking up to our tow bar. We have this pin here. All we have to do is pull this out. Then we can lift up on our non-binding arm for the tow bar, and it will release our arm. It's very easy to disconnect, and we do get caps included for the front of this. That way it kind of finishes off that look. And when it's time to hook back up, we simply lift up on our tow bar. We then take our adapters and slide them in. A good tip is to make sure that this hole is facing up. We'll push that in like so, and then turn it 90 degrees. Now we can grab our safety pins, slide those through, and latch them. And it'll be the exact same on our other side. On the outside right here, we have our tabs for our safety chains. You simply take these on here and snap them in. One really awesome feature about our kit is that it comes with a lot of different hardware so that we can adapt it to different brands of tow bars. As you can see, we have a Roadmaster tow bar here, and it works just great with our Demco base plate. Again, this is a very nice base plate. It's one of my favorite ones to install on the Jeeps. There's no drilling, it's super simple. You don't really need any major tools. The hardest part is going to be cutting your fascia. Now, while we're talking about installation, I'll go ahead and walk you through how to get it installed now. To start our installation, there's going to be 2 push pins on the top of our bumper here. You can use a small flat blade screwdriver or a trim panel tool. It's just a little bit easier to get in here with a flat blade screwdriver, in my opinion. We'll repeat that same process for our other push pin. We're now going to have 8 push pins underneath our bumper up here that we're going to need to remove. I'm going to use a trim panel tool just to make it a little bit easier. With all of our push pins removed, we're now ready to remove our 2 5/16 screws. You do want to make sure to hold this so it doesn't hit you in the head. With our screws removed, we can lower down our plastic panel. We're now going to remove 2 18mm nuts on this side, and then this bolt here, and then there's 2 more on the other side. We're now ready to take off our last bolt supporting our bumper. You do want to make sure to hold on to it, just in case the tension on the studs isn't enough to hold that bumper in place. If your Gladiator has fog lights, you'll have a plug right here. You want to push in and disconnect that before we take off our bumper. With all of our bolts off, we can grab our bumper by the tow hook. And slide it off. We'll set this off to the side. We need to take this front bracket off. Underneath there was a couple bolts that I said we needed to remove. It is easier to remove them once the bumper is off, so we'll go ahead and do that now. Before we add our base plate, we want to tape our thicker washers on the back side of these outside holes. Now with an extra set of hands, we can lift our base plate up into place. It can be kind of tight, so you want to turn it and get that first tab there, and we can slide it up into place. And once we get that lifted up enough, we can get our hardware started. Again, we're just going to loosely install this just to support the base plate. And keep in mind, we will be using our stock hardware for this hole. We're now ready to install our hardware in this hole. We're going to be using our handle nut and our bolt provided. We do want to make sure to add some blue Loctite to this. You don't need a whole lot, but just a little bit will do the trick. This part can be kind of tricky. We have to feed our handle nut up through the bottom. And then you're essentially going to be holding it with 2 fingers. You have to look through this hole and try to see when the handle nut is there. And with our handle nut in the right spot, we can slide our bolt into place and get it started. And we're going to repeat this process on the other side. Before we tighten up our hardware, we want to make sure that our base plate is clear of this hole. That way when we put our bumper back on, there's no interference. And if it is kind of in the way, you can take a thicker screwdriver and kind of pry it in any direction you might need to move it. Then you can double check and make sure that those holes are open. We can go ahead and tighten it down. We actually didn't need to take this bracket off on the inside, so we'll go ahead and reinstall it. We now need to install our safety cables. We're going to slide one side through this way and then kind of pull it. You have to be careful because this is kind of tight right here. Then we are going to take our D-link, add it to this side, and then put this guy through here. We'll tighten this down. Try to snug it up as much as possible. Then I'm going to run it up this way through the body, and we're going to catch the body mount up here. Pull it through. And again, you kind of want to get as much slack out of this bottom part as you can. Then I'll bring it around the bottom and add our other D-link. We'll add our D-link to the loop here. Then pull it to our safety cable. Then I'll come back with an 11/16 wrench and tighten it down. We're also going to do the exact same thing on the passenger side. We can go ahead and torque down our hardware. All of our torque specs will be listed in our instructions. We're now ready to reinstall our front bumper. We'll go ahead, hold it up into place. We can now reinstall our bolts to hold on our bumper in the reverse order that we took them apart. With our bumper reinstalled, we want to make sure to plug back in our wiring harness for our fog lights. You'll hear a click, give it a little pull, we know we're good to go. Our instructions gives us a nice diagram to show us where to cut out our holes. That way we can reinstall our underbody panel around our base plate. Once we have our squares cut out, we want to test fit it and make sure it fits on here correctly. In this case it does. I'm not going to completely install it until I get all of my wiring ran for the rest of our flat toe. That's going to do it for a look at and installation of the Demco tabless base plate kit on our 2020 Jeep Gladiator.